Hello and welcome to another episode of Socialistics Social Media Agency Stories, where we try to help any aspiring agency owners or current agency owners, or even if you're running a business, pull back the curtains on what works, what doesn't, and share with you anything we can that's going to help you run a more successful agency or business. So thank you for listening. Today we've got another great guest. We're going to talk all things agency, maybe a little sprinkling of SEO wisdom. So I want to welcome David Finberg from Peaks Digital Marketing to the show. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and jump right in. Tell me a little bit about your journey, where you started, how you got to where you're at, and what you're currently working on.
Sure. So, I actually started in maybe, 9-10 years old, like building websites was kind of that initial, right? Like writings on the wall. This is what I like to do. This is, one of my kind of core skill sets with low friction, where it's easier for me than it was for other people. So that's really where I started, was building websites for friends and family, 8, 9, 10 years old, old school, like Angel Fire, GeoCities, HTML websites, right? From like the 90s on a dial-up modem. So that was a, humble beginning, so to speak. From there, I actually pivoted into the auto industry for about half a decade and spent a lot of time learning how to become a Mercedes mechanic. And, you may say, well, what does that have to do with agency work? And like, how does that kind of correlate to where you are now? That journey and that experience really gave me a couple of skills, like time management, attention to detail, and just really great active listening skills, right? And trying to figure out what is the real problem, right? So many of us are not car people. And, when you're talking about a car, it's very similar to a website, right? Of like, here's what I want. It's making this noise, or I want this to go here. And so, I had some experience managing a shop while I was in college, a shop out in Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is, I'm originally from Washington, D.C., Virginia area. And shortly after, the college kind of route, I was approached by a couple of buddies that had started their own SEO company. And they said, hey, look, David, we know you know websites. Like, we've seen some of your content, looks pretty great. Let's, give you a shot here and see if, you can be our content intern. And so that basically turned into, writing hundreds of articles and a lot of the more content generation stuff, right, which we all know about. But at the end of the day, what that kind of progressed into was me leading their SEO team and their digital campaigns. And so it really gave me kind of that platform to, build my skill set, start interacting with clients on a more technical basis. And it was a great learning experience. It was like 6 or 7 of us in a house. We were trying to be almost like if you guys have ever seen the show Entourage, right? They're all living together and kind of working together. And it was this culture of innovation and fun. And, the interesting thing is, as younger kids at that time, right? I was maybe 26 or 27 years old, right? Running through that experience, there's a lot of learning lessons and a lot of mistakes that get made. Just, to this day, I'm still making mistakes, right? But especially when you're in your infancy and trying to really take a business off, raise the barn, so to speak, and take it to the next level. We determined, that there were a couple of, I wouldn't say we determined, but as a whole, there were things that weren't happening, like money management, things that just created some roadblocks and some hurdles. And the company was making money, the product worked, the processes were good. It just didn't have kind of those legs to take off. And so transition to kind of where I am now, right? What happened is the company effectively disbanded. And we, all kind of decided like we're going to go our separate ways and try to make things work for ourselves. And so that's really where I kind of had that humbling experience of like moving back into my parents' house, which I never thought I would do, right? And like really sitting down and saying, okay, what do you want this life to be? And like, this didn't work out, but it was, there's so much potential, right? And so many good things that happened there and great experiences. And so that's where I really started to develop the bones of Peaks Digital Marketing and came up with the logo and the tagline. Those were like the two kind of focal pieces that got me enough momentum to kind of keep going. And from there, it'd been my dream to move out to Colorado. My cousin's an entrepreneur. He's like, come out to Colorado. It's great for startups. There's just a lot of get off the Beltway in 495 and get out of DC and come out here for a year and see how you like it. So that's what I did. And then from there, really taking a step back and saying, okay, well, I have to get clients, I have to get a website, I need to generate sales, I need to generate income for myself, right? So I ended up going back into the auto industry, which is something I thought I would never have to do. And basically, went, got a laptop from a pawn shop, went and was scouring pawn shops for like the hidden gem laptop that someone didn't realize what they were getting rid of kind of thing. And, I'd make, as a mechanic, you're all commissioned. So there's sometimes where there's no work or there's downtime. And in my downtime, I would make the website and just start to put together the collateral of the business. So, that was, a pretty consistent routine for like a year and a half. And that's really when things started to take off for the business, where, started to just do whatever I could to get sales. I was asking my neighbors, I was asking, friends, family, past clients, right? All kinds of just whatever we can do to generate some kind of revenue and get a runway together. And so, effectively I went from solopreneur, that was barely scraping by, to like solopreneur that had a couple clients, right? And things were progressing, pretty rapidly going into year 2 and year 3. And, by end of year 3, it was like, well, I have too much work. Now I need to start hiring and delegating and figuring out how I'm going to make this puzzle fit. And, that in itself was a big lesson. As a former mechanic, right, I'm very technically minded. I'm more of a technician, right? Mm-hmm. When you're working on that car, it's just you in the car, right? Or you in the social media campaign, or you in the SEO campaign, right? And so there was almost this mindset shift. One of the first things I did was I hired a mentor who, runs a $40 million company called Ship Offers. He'd owned some agencies in the past and just had that business acumen and experience to really help me navigate, shark infested water, so to speak. And from there, that morphed into, let's get you some support. Let's start hiring. Let's start building out your processes. And there's a lot of friction there, going from like solopreneur who's making, when you've got enough clients, you're making good money, right? Now it's like, oh, we're actually going to reduce your salary down and hire a couple more people and just continue to scale the company, as opposed to milking it, right? Milking it for our personal reasons. And so, long story short, now we have a team, about 9 or 10 people, focusing on project management, right? All of the kind of core roles like creatives, project managers, technical people, everything that we do. A lot of SEO, websites, and content. So a lot of, you need a small village depending on what you're trying to accomplish in terms of design versus development versus having that right landing page or the right backlinks, SEO optimization, so on and so forth. So it was really a journey, and it was one that, didn't look like what I thought it would look like. Initially, I'm like, oh, I should just be a solopreneur, right? Like, this is too hard. I'm not finding the right people. I'm hiring the wrong people. I've got processes that are 60% there instead of the 70 or 80 that someone needs in order to complete the job, right? And I remember like it was yesterday, my mentor Tony was like, look, it's actually going to be harder right now. You're actually going to have to work harder than you currently are, which seems, next to impossible when you're managing a lot of clients by yourself, right? So that was kind of the first, I almost compared it to like having a kid, right? It's like, all right, for a couple of months, I was just kind of unsure. I'm like, is this right for me? Should I really just focus and be a solopreneur, or go, not that finding a job was really on my radar, but like, would I be in a better position just focusing on one thing and being really good at that? And so, what that turned into was a lot of voices in my head telling me like, hey, you're not a good manager. You're not a good leader, right? Like, you're not good at hiring. It's like this negative kind of self-talk, and the payoff or the narrative there was like, you're better off on your own, right? Just do it on your own. Just do it on your own. Just do it on your own, right? So that was the first 3 years, was you kind of have to do it on your own, right? Now it's like, I don't have to do it on my own, but it's actually seems easier to do it on my own, despite the fact that I need more resources and I don't have enough time to do the things that I want, like go out to dinner with friends or, just have a normal life. And so there was this kind of like your conscience on either shoulder, like you need to hire some people, you need you need to start scaling these processes, and you need to start investing in your team. And that might mean moving a little bit slower in the short term to be able to have more runway to really ramp and scale. And so, that was a hurdle for me, and one that was a blind spot. And I feel fortunate and lucky to have someone that could show me that and show me how to overcome that. Right. And, really working through those kind of technician perfectionism tendencies and saying, hey, I'm okay with a 60 or 70% as long as it's not me doing it. Right. Like we can take this together to 80, 90, 100% over time. Right. And, having that aha moment was kind of crucial to unlocking that next step and realizing the next level of revenue and the next level of service, experience for the client. Right. And, it was basically like being the Wizard of Oz, right? They get to the end of the road, right? And it's one guy pulling all these levers, and they're like, this is what we traveled all this way to see, right? Is this one guy like kind of putting on the show behind the curtain? And so I use that as motivation, right? And now, have these conversations with my mentor and with myself around what kind of leader I wanted to be and how I can feel less like an imposter and more like the leader that I know I'm capable of being and that we've kind of grown into, right? And of course, there's always another problem, always another lesson, always another experience to have. But truly that was, to this day, one of the biggest takeaways that I had in running a business was like, we're so used to doing it on our own, and we're used to, maybe being disappointed by some of the questionable hires or people that you thought were a great fit, but just really things went in a different direction. Right. And overcoming that and saying, okay, it's okay to make some mistakes here. So it's okay to fail. What's not okay is to say, I'm alone. I need to do it all alone and stay in a position where the business can never scale and I can never step away from the business. So that is, the soup to nuts journey of starting as, a kid going into more of the young adult. And now, in this place where for the last 3 or so years, we've been managing this team and growing the team and really just focusing on creating a different lifestyle for myself has been really motivating. And in addition to that, seeing what's happening with clients and their feedback and, I loved working with Polly or working with Ben on the team was just great. It's like, I'm getting feedback that's inherently better than what it ever would have been just having me do it. Right. Or having me on that meeting. And so that's, been just call a spade. That was like a big hurdle for us. And that was a big hurdle for me and one that, we're still working on processes. We're still hiring people and trying to find ways to better scale the business. And that never really stops, but it's really embracing the journey of that and being okay with the discomfort of trying something new and God forbid succeeding at it. Right. Is like, we always think about the downside. Right. And so just kind of redefining that was a huge milestone and one that I think a lot of business owners may relate to.
No, that's awesome. What, when you think of your agency journey, what's like when you think of one or two things when you look back that was like the biggest learning or something you would do differently or advice you would give somebody that's kind of just starting out that might have them avoid some of the pitfalls that you experience? What are some things that kind of come to mind?
Absolutely. I mean, the first one is hiring for culture, right? Hire for culture. They can learn the skills, your processes, everything will help support them through that journey. But if they don't have the right mission, if they're not on mission, the culture isn't right, you're always going to have a, disparity between where you think you need to be versus where you are, where that person thinks they need to be versus where they are. And so, mainly around hiring, that was the biggest one, right? Like hire fast or fire fast, hire slow, right? And so having more checks and balances during that hiring process of like having someone that I really trust interview them that has, corporate experience or has experience with interviews, people that that tend to do really well here, do really well on like written, we do a lot of content. So we have this almost like this 30-minute written writing test. It's a time test where, they don't know what the topic is, right? You're just trying to get a feel for what someone's day-to-day is going to be like and how they operate in a situation where maybe there isn't a super clear cut and dry answer. Right. And so those are a couple of things, right? Two things: hiring for culture, having checks and balances in place so that your biases don't, there's people that I was like, I really love this person on paper. They're great. And then you get them into a writing test and they barely write anything. Right. Or it's just not enough structure for them to be, maybe they're out of college, right? Maybe they're more mature, or just seeing kind of where their mind frame is at. The third thing that we do is we started putting trial periods in place for new hires. Right. So, hey, you're on 90-day trial. Most of the time it works out great. The times that it doesn't, it really saves you from having to go through the headache of, that whole process of letting go and trying to find someone new and maybe paying unemployment and going through this, putting your head in a vice, right? Like, we can grow together and we can do so in a way that's scalable and still paint that picture and still have the opportunities for individuals. But the main thing was really hiring for culture, not hiring for skills always, right? Some people have great skills, but they're not malleable. They want to do things a certain way, and that's okay. Other times that can be a downside when you kind of need a mix of both on your team. You need some people that can get in there and start tackling projects and hitting the ground running, and need some people that over the next 6 months are really going to be, your B&A players, right? And start to kind of morph into a more experienced, confident role. And for those individuals, it's a culture. They're all culture hires, but it's like, hey, you don't have SEO experience, but you know how to write. That's great. We'll teach you the SEO, right? Mm-hmm. So the last kind of pitfall that I would have is raises expectations and reviews, right? So having more really frequent reviews with your employees, like first 30 days, you should have a review, right? Every month after, you should have a review until you hit, a place where, you're kind of in that cadence and you feel like they're getting the feedback that they need without, going too granular on the meeting schedule. But, really making sure, like, one thing that I found that I was doing is I was just throwing money at people, right? I'm like, great, you want to do this? Oh, you want to be, you want to be our PM or content manager or whoever, right? Like, here's a raise and let's see what you can do. Now I take a step back and I say, let's see what you can do. And then let's start rewarding you for the value that you're adding to the clients, right? And so it's really shifted away from like of course, everyone wants to know what their trajectory is and wants room to grow. And on the other end, really making it focused around the clients. Like, the more value, I tell my team this every week, it's like, the more value we're creating for the client, the more value you're going to receive from peaks, right? The longer clients will stay, the more, wins we're going to have, the better the experience is for the client. And so really tying that to the performance angle and the review process of like, how are we adding more value? How are things progressing? If you're running peaks tomorrow, what would you do? Like, really giving people a long rope, right? And some people will hang themselves with that rope, and some people will really step up and take things to the next level. And so that can help you with your scaling too. And you really get those right people that want to help. The reality is 99% of people want to help. And sometimes people just don't know how, or they don't have the vision to be able to, or the skill set to be able to help. And so, those were the big ones. It's like hiring for culture, making sure that we're not literally not just incentivizing people with cash. We should be incentivizing people with a vision of what that looks like for the client, and providing that feedback throughout the journey of, this person's just stepped into your business. What kind of experience are we creating for them? Right. And 90% of the interviews I have, I say, when's your last feedback? They're like, oh, it was like a year ago. Right. It's like, wow. So for a whole year, you don't even know, how you're doing and what kind of benchmarks you can have in place and how you can help take things to the next level. And so really having that roadmap and not over promising, not just throwing money at a situation or hoping that this is going to work. It's really taking more granular steps and supporting people throughout that journey. That's shifted, a lot of the hires that we make and a lot of the elimination of turnover, right? In terms of either hiring the wrong person or finding someone that, maybe it wasn't a great fit for them because it's a startup or whatever it may be, right? So hires, right? You'll spend double the time if you make a mistake, and you're supposed to probably make a few mistakes in that area to really learn. On the other end, there's a lot you can do on the front end, like trials, like having really clear expectations, having a great review process that not only will help your business stand out and create a great experience for them, it'll also put you in a position where you're still in power and you still have the trajectory to motivate without just giving away all, putting all your eggs in one basket or giving away the farm, right?
Yeah, that's cool. So you talked a lot about culture. Are you guys a virtual agency or physical location or?
So we're physical location. We do have a few individuals, research developers in the UK. There's a few other contractors that we work with that have been, long-time relationships that aren't in Colorado. But we've seen that's a huge point, is having everyone in office has really made quite a difference. The bandwidth just opens up quite a bit, right? And
sure,
there's just more connection between individuals. That said, in today's environment, it's 100% scalable to do it remotely and just
sure.
Have a lot of those meetings be remote and Zoom. So, but I'd say if you can have people come in, it's been a game changer in the sense of one, knowing what's going on, and two, being able to support people in real time, and three, having the community around individuals so that the team is coming together around things, as opposed to just, hey, I need to ask my boss because I don't know the answer to this, right? It's like, three other people in the office probably already know it, right? So that's been one that I actually asked during the hiring process today. Are you opposed to working in an office? Like, do you like working with people? Are you more of a lone wolf? It's okay if you're a lone wolf, but just know the expectation is, office, and that's something that can change, but certainly something that has added a lot of value to the accounts.
Gotcha. One question I always like to ask folks before we wrap things up is, what's a book, a piece of technology, a gadget, something that you've been getting a lot of use of lately, or just something that stands out that's been really helpful or insightful to you to share with the audience?
Absolutely. I would say check out The CEO's Mindset by Vinny Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
Good mentor of mine, friend. Just really, he built a $100 million company, and ran into the ground, and is now on his way to building another one. So from the ground floor, just building it up and taking you to your first million, then from 1 to 10 and 10 to 100. That's, I think, a fantastic read for people that are looking for some different perspective and insights. Tool wise, we use SEMrush, we use Ahrefs. It's pretty standard in this industry. But one tool that I know is becoming increasingly more important for people is Google PageSpeed Insights. Measuring the page speed of your site can not only help you with your SEO and getting you more traffic, can help you across all of your channels, whether that's social, whether that's email, whether that's, none of the above or all of the above, right? It doesn't matter what channel they're coming in. Sites that are faster convert higher. So everyone always thinks, hey, let's just add more leads to the top of the funnel, right? One thing that Vinny kind of taught me, and again, back to the CEO's mindset, was like, we don't always just have to add more leads to the top of the funnel. So one thing we've seen here at Peaks, and the team works intimately with Google PageSpeed Insights to see what those page speed scores are and how your developer can help improve the loading speed and the loading order of the site, to squeeze a little bit more juice out of that fruit, right? And get the maximum amount of conversions possible. So it's a nice low hanging fruit opportunity that you can use to identify some gaps in your page speed, and by improving that, you can actually have a profound effect across social, AdWords, paid, organic, direct, email. There's gains to be had across the board. So I would totally check out the Google PageSpeed Insights. Another tool that I really like is readable.io. So if you're writing content, you're creating content, readable.io is a great tool that'll help just give you more insights, or give your team more insights into the copy that they're writing, what the tone is, how to make sentences, improve sentences and improve some of the copy experience. Sadly, people read at an 7th to 8th grade level. So it actually can help you kind of simplify and refine. Brevity is wit of the soul, right? So you want to try to have things short, readable, and it could be long form content. You just don't want it to be a chore to read. And so readable.io is a great, it's a fantastic tool everyone here uses to just help take their content to the next level.
Oh, I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for some pretty deep insight. That's awesome to kind of hear from an agency owner and kind of what they went through. Where can people find you to learn more about you or what you do?
Certainly. So check me out on social media. It's David A. Finberg on Instagram and Facebook. If you're looking for some SEO tips and insights, check out our website, peaksdigitalmarketing.com. Peaks, like the mountaintop, digitalmarketing.com/podcast. We actually have a blog and landing page optimization guide. It'll just help plan your content, help you get the right SEO icing on your cake when you're syndicating that new landing page or blog. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again so much for being on the show. We'll make sure to put all those in the show notes. But thanks for carving out some time to share a little bit about your story.
Fantastic. My pleasure.
Awesome. That will do it for this week's episode of Socialistics. Make sure you like, subscribe, share all that good stuff, and we will catch you next episode.